Hey,
And welcome to the Rocket Launcher Podcast. This is episode 90 episodes in. I am your host, Supreme King. Join with me, as always, is my co-host. His name is...
it's your guy Omazis.
Man, how you like this flip-flop weather we got right now? We
Bro,
just we just talk about the weather every episode for the first 60 seconds. Why not? It was like thundering and storming yesterday. I remember it like flooded the parking lot where I was at. And then like 2 hours later, it was like, okay. And it was like, all right, it's cool for us to leave.
when I was listening to the radio in the morning, it was
Yeah.
like today's gonna be 70, like, and then it's gonna be a heavy storm and hail, and tomorrow is going to be 60 and sunny. I'm like 70 and hail.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
what?
So it was really hot and kind of sweaty today. And then I think, I don't even know, but I know it's going to flip flop a little bit. Sometimes it's going to rain. Sometimes it's going to be sunny for like the rest of this week going into next week. But anyways,
Like Powerball numbers.
yes, sir. Gaming podcast. We'll get into some gaming topics. A big bulk of what I have for probably a little bit later on is going to be the Nintendo Indie World show. Some good, some bad, but some really good. I was surprised. I think it was a little bit better, or like one of the better shows for them. Despite it not really having a Nintendo IP on the show. But right now, let's just talk about Remnant 2 is on the screen. This is actually some of our old footage because I think we're done with the base game. But yeah, you saw some information. Tell us about this DLC that you saw, because I know we're gonna buy it when like all of it is out, right? If I remember correctly.
Yep. So there's three packs, and the second one is coming out on the 23rd. This one is called The Forgotten Kingdom. So first it was the Awakened King,
Right.
and now it's the Forgotten Kingdom. This one takes place in Yaisha, the forest area, where there's like a forgotten tribe that you like take out, I guess, and it creates a new archetype called the Invoker, which I'm pretty sure. So I was looking slightly over it, and basically, I think it's you like buff up by making everything focus on you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shout out to Remnant 2. I think Remnant 2 was wildly successful for them, where if I remember correctly, the numbers they were expecting in a month they got within the week or something like that when the game first came out. So I would fully expect them to keep working on this franchise. We were just talking off air about how people was quitting on franchises way too soon. I don't think that's going to happen with Remnant. I think we're going to definitely get a Remnant 3 at some point, because they made major improvements from Remnant, from the ashes to Remnant 2, especially with the designs of the boss fights, because the boss fights were a little bit more one-dimensional in the first game, where here it was very creative, very out of the box, and like there were some things that I remember seeing that I didn't even see from a From Software game, right? Like the big cube maze and everything. Like
I would even say this boss fight that's on the screen.
Yeah.
It took us like a couple seconds to really kind of figure out what we were supposed to be doing, and it's like those little bugs, and there's like a little special slug that will take over those things in the sky, and you got to shoot it and then try and stomp it. But it took us like shooting a few times to actually realize.
Because it will be hiding a little bit. It'll jump down. You gotta find it. Yeah, they throwing stuff. But
this is also where we learned if you aim correctly, you can stick the fire tornado to things.
Yes. The fire tornado was like the MVP weapon of the game, though.
I agree.
And I think you don't just normally get it. If I remember, we just kind of got it from what we were doing, but if I remember correctly, you got to do some specific stuff just to get that thing. But that's something that I think...
Was the fire tornado from beating the prince? The like red prince? That was like super difficult?
It might have been. I forgot. All I know is that for anybody who's going to play this game, almost like how I look up Persona stuff to get true endings, you might want to figure out how to get to that. And definitely play co-op. But you might want to figure out how to get that fire tornado no matter what. It was like a very big game changer. within the games. Dope game. So yeah, tell me one more time, what was the release date for the
April
second
23rd.
23rd. So it's right around the corner. It's not too long at all. So that's cool because I think afterwards they're gonna do their final one, and then is each one like $10? Do we know?
Yep.
Do we know that
$10? Each one is 10, and then if you get the season pass thing instead, it's like 23.
Oh yeah, so
like $7 for all of them.
Yeah, so you know me, I know you're probably gonna try to see if we can get that season pass on some sort of sale, some sort of Black Friday thing.
Oh yeah.
And then jump back in it. I never uninstalled it. I actually still have it there. It's just kind of pushed down, I think, on the PS5. I guess it'd be a good time for me to mention I have not made any progress on Bloodborne whatsoever, but I was playing. It's just I have my schedule is a little whacked out right now, so it's hard for me to play that consecutively. So where like a Souls game, you gotta play that consecutively. You can't just take too many breaks from that. And I'm gonna try to get to the point where I can play that for like on my more busy days at least an hour, and then my non-busy days like a decent 4 or 5, like how I would normally play on a game. But yeah, I was in one of those places where like in the From Software games, you gotta like when you get to a checkpoint, sometimes you got an obstacle course before you go back to a new boss or something. You don't just go through the fog. And so I'm in a position where I gotta like step through certain enemies just to get to the boss and then get the tar beat out of me from the boss.
Yeah.
But I'm still liking it. I'm still in the beginning of it, kinda. So I'm actually around one of the mandatory bosses in the beginning of the game. If anybody remembers, it's the guy who's like a much more experienced you, basically, where he's also a hunter with a gun and his own like weapon and everything. So people would understand that. Dude dressed kind of like Undertaker in a way. Yeah. So yeah, shout out to that game. Shout out to this one. Yeah.
Because I had to look it up to make sure I remember. It is the Red Prince that you have to beat. Okay. That dude was a difficult boss. When you finally really figure out how to fight him, I mean, it's still difficult, but it's great to figure it out. And then it was probably the most rewarding. Plus, it gives you the strongest mod in the game. But yeah.
Do we have footage on that, or did we already show it? If it was me, we probably already showed it.
We've already showed it, I'm pretty sure. But
okay, so it's lost in the archives. But
I'll look to see. I believe we already showed it, but
probably.
Oh boy, it was like he summons the fire tornado, and then he keeps summoning fire enemies and stuff like that.
You know what? I remember because it wasn't at the point where we had to run back to the middle.
Yes.
If you didn't run back to the middle, you just was set on fire, instant death.
Yep.
And we were just like, we didn't know at all what to do in the beginning until it kind of just dawned on us, like, oh yeah, probably should run back.
And it's all because if you approach him and you're supposed to find a bunch of like gifts, and we were one short, so he got mad and fought us, and you couldn't get out of the fight. And it was like if you get his dagger, you got to like do something else for a mission, like it tied it to another person's mission.
Okay.
But we couldn't get the dagger. It was the whole. Remember the council that was just like.
Yeah, and they were snitching and everything.
Yeah, that group. Which, funny enough, we only got this world because we just decided to re-roll and go through, and all of that ties into the Awakened Kings DLC stuff, and we wouldn't have seen it if we ain't re-roll. So, like, jumping into the Awakened King, we would have missed a chunk of the story because we didn't re-roll. So, if you play through the game and you play through Lonesome, and you have no idea what I'm talking about with like the trailer or with the trailer with the tribal like chamber of 3, like talking about who attacked the king, then after you beat Lonesome, re-roll it and play it again.
Yeah, Remnant 2 was nominated in a different couple categories within the Game Awards, but whenever I've seen people do like their co-op list for the year for 2023, Remnant was very high. Remnant 2 was very high on a lot of people's videos, and official publications as well. So it's definitely a must place for co-op at least. I definitely would recommend it that way.
But, and if you haven't played the first one, I think the first one is a must play too.
Yeah, definitely play them both, and I expect the third one. I will be there day one for the third one whenever it comes out. It probably might be a next gen title, but I will be there for it. Hopefully, we'll be able to buy it in a better fashion than before, because I know they were being a little goofy with the whole like not putting it in the store, and at a point I kind of just didn't keep updating on that. I just sort of stopped. But if I remember correctly, it was like when it first was released, nobody had it for like a couple months, and then only GameStop had it, and it was like at a very select like couple of GameStops within my state and your state, but not like, it wasn't like you could just walk up into any place. You had to call and check, and when you checked, they only had a few, and it wasn't really at a normal retail. I think it never made it to normal retail. And right now, like, you know, retail is doing their whole thing where they want to get rid of a lot of physical media. So hopefully they make it a little bit more easier the next time around. It might just be all digital at that point, because I think this game was doing what Alan Wake 2 did, but didn't announce it. They were slick with it in a way, right? Yeah. But they still had physical copies, which was the difference from Alan Wake 2. It's just you couldn't find it anywhere except GameStop. GameStop was the only place, and that was like a very unique thing in itself, because every other year people think GameStop is going to go away. It's like, if they actually did, like that particular game, the only way you would have been able to get it would have been Amazon if you wanted a physical copy. Obviously, if you got a digital copy, you would have been able to get it with no problem, but for physical collectors, it was a hassle. That's all I remember. But yeah, we can move on. We can go through some of your stuff. I have tell me about what was going on with Nintendo and this Pokemon thing. We're gonna go into Nintendo probably a little bit later, but here, just Nintendo being Nintendo again, right? Like, yeah, I heard parts of this story, but I didn't hear the whole thing. Give me some details, man. What's going on?
So, Japanese police arrest 36-year-old man on suspicion of tampering with Pokemon Violet save data. So, basically, Japan has, because of how big gaming is and like all that stuff, they have a unfair competition prevention act, which basically means you can't use cheats. And basically some guy was selling modified Pokemon Violet save data, where it was like Pokemon would have custom moves and stuff like that they weren't supposed to have, and he would sell it for up to like $84 at a time. I'm saying the price is for a reason and everything. So he would do like, you know, it's approximately somewhere between $30 to $84, depending on what they needed. And he admitted to the crime after getting caught, and he could face up to 5 years imprisonment or a fine of up to $32,000, like 5 million yen. So $32,000.
I needed to know, Nintendo must be stopped. I'm like so serious. Like, it's kind of one of those things where it's just like I understand. This is the part that I hate to say, because it's still true at the end of the day. They do have a right to protect their intellectual property. The problem with it is they do stuff that's just too far, and it seems to not like stick with people where they know what Nintendo is trying to do to them, and they're like Nintendo trying to make examples out of so many people, but it's just like it doesn't work in the grand scheme of things, because at the end of the day, it's like, okay, it's just another person, another body that's going to go away, but we're going to replace them with somebody else, right? Because this person is not the same person as somebody who did the emulation stuff, right? The Bowser dude Gary Bowser, right? It's not the same person. It's not the same person as like whoever was in Discord saying or doing whatever, or whoever was leaking release dates at GameStop. It's like people are just gonna do stuff and they can't. You're not gonna be able to take everybody down. If you took everybody down, you wouldn't have a customer anymore. At the end of the day, because people push boundaries. They just do.
Well, they just also, do. What I don't like is that this article, IGN, they're kind of comparing this crime to things that I don't think it should be fairly compared to. Yeah. So they said there was a man who attempted to descend a 6-story building to steal a treasure trove of Pokemon trading cards out of a store in Tokyo, and I'm like, well, that's theft. Or there was another case where some thieves in 2022, I think we talked about this, they stole like a truck of like over $60,000 worth of Pokemon cards. But like again, that's theft. And there was another case in 2022, which I didn't know about this. 2 LA officers got fired because they ignored a robbery call because they were chasing down a Snorlax on Pokemon Go. But again, that's like not doing your job. This guy was selling a modded game. Like, he had to buy the game. Like initially, and then he just modded it, and like he was like, "Here you go."
Yeah, and but at the same time, it's still technically wrong. I just feel like we're treating some of what they do on the same level as like something a hardened criminal would do. Yeah. Like, let's say like bodily injury of any kind, to a human being, right? That type of thing deserves a certain amount of time of imprisonment. But when you put a crime of like messing with a video game in a way, on that same level as far as like the time that you would get and the type of fines you can get, I personally just don't agree with it because I don't put them on the same level. It would sound like it's on the same level to me, and it's not.
But the thing that I'm not agreeing with, the thing where it's like I don't feel like this should really be considered a crime at all, right? Is he's not selling fake copies of Pokemon Violet, right? What he's doing is he's selling save data that has been modded to trick the game into thinking this stuff exists. The person buying it from him has to already own Pokemon Violet for this to even work. Like, he's not even selling the old PlayStation memory card. He's basically like, give me $30, give me your memory card, and I'll copy the Tekken data on there. But you still need to own a copy of Tekken in order to even do it. So Nintendo already got their money for Pokemon Violet. The person had to buy the game and the console to play it, and he's just saving when you turn on the game and it says who's playing. He's selling that.
So we're saying it's on a level of like a Skyrim mod, basically.
Yeah.
Because you kind of had to buy the base game, or if it was Oblivion or something, like whatever it is, you had to buy the base game to play the mod, basically.
Yes. And he's selling the mod. And that's what he's in trouble for.
It's funny because people do that with like Discord all the time. They'll go on Discord and be like, for example, you remember Spider-Man Web of Shadows, right? There was a dude who's like, he had a mod where he put the Miles Morales suit from Miles Morales' game like on Spider-Man from Web of Shadows, and I'm assuming it was the PC version. And in order for him to give you the mod code to put on there, he wanted you to add yourself to his Patreon. And it was like, if you added yourself to his Patreon, then you got it, right? I didn't ever do it. I was like, I just play the game. But yeah, I guess he modded it to have like somewhat like up-to-date graphics, and then like you had the mod suit, basically. That particular game wasn't Insomniac, that was actually Activision, but whoever, like the equivalent would be like Sony or somebody saying like, hey, you can't do that, and we're gonna like take all the money you've ever made, I guess, from Patreon, possibly put you in jail. I just think if the person got in trouble for certain things, I almost feel like there should be a cap on the punishment in a way, because I just can't fathom the idea that the punishment will be just as severe as like a attack or something, like a you know what I mean, like a like we've seen some worse things happen with people who have firearms and stuff, and then somehow some way the person who hacked the video game is getting the same type of time as the person who got arrested for taking a firearm into a public place and doing what they did, right? And I'm just like, that doesn't, like, there's no way we're giving them the same amount of time. That's just me.
Crazy. He's given this much time because somebody wanted a Pikachu that can learn Fire Ball.
It's just goofy to me.
He's giving random Pokemon random moves. And it's like, the other thing is he's not telling them to go use it in a competition. It's only unfair if the person plays with other people.
Here's the thing though. So even though I think it's weird, in real time, the people are still getting these type of time, and they are getting punished and their lives ruined. And then other people, they're still doing it. Other people's like, oh, I can top it. Or if I remember correctly, wasn't there a kid or something who was just like, if I get out, I'm going to do it again? The one who hacked the PS5, right? Or jailbroke it or something. And people were initially trying to say it was just as bad as when the PS3 got hacked. But the story just kind of died down. If I remember correctly, they was like, they got to give him life in prison. Because he said, the second I get out, I'm about to do it again. Like, yes, that's crazy to say. But I still don't think that he would deserve being in there for life in prison just because he hacked it. And what was silly, if I remember correctly too, he went into a hotel with like a Roku device or something in the cell phone. I'm like, that actually looks bad on Sony Entertainment, honestly. Like, because I think he was 19 too, right? If I remember the story. I'm just like, we're not talking about we're gonna give a 19-year-old life. You know, I just can't see that. Like, and then there are certain people where it was like, oh, before we go arrest you, let's take you to Burger King. It's like, we don't even got to go into details, but that's enough detail. I think people know somebody. I just feel like that's not equal to me. There's no way that's equal. There's no way, you know? So yeah. But the Pokemon thing is kind of silly. I mean, like, come on, Nintendo. Like, literally people was playing older ones on their phone. Like, I think I have the ability to do that on one of my older phones with like the Razer Kishi and stuff. Shout out to Soul Silver. It's just kind of, it's silly. That's silly. I don't know. That's silly. Which Pokemon game was this? Was this the Scarlet and Violet?
Yep, specifically Violet.
Violet. Shout out to Violet. That's still one of the games I didn't get yet.
I got Scarlet.
Can you tell me, has it improved as far as performance? Because it's been about a year and a half, right? How's the performance?
Last time I played it was like December.
Okay.
And it was running fine. Less stuttery. But nothing that was like any sort of next gen. Like, it was just it ran like a normal Pokemon game. Barely noticeable.
Okay. Well, that's no problem.
So, like, yeah, that part's fine. It's just, this is still like the first one I have not like finished. It's crazy. I don't know why. It's something about the open worldness. I think I prefer it a little bit linear.
I don't have that particular one yet. I do want the Violet one. I think Violet has a better looking cover to me. I do want to buy a physical version. It's everywhere. It's not like it's they're like running out of copies or nothing, but
Never.
Ain't like they gonna let it go on sale either. I'm like, dang, at least drop it to 40 at one point. Like,
also never.
That ain't, yeah, it's still a cool $60. I'm like, no matter where I'll get it from, but I'm gonna get it eventually because there's still, I actually did not buy a game or anything this month for like the GameStop discount. I don't know if I might get that or just like a controller or something. But yeah, I've been getting more Nintendo games just because that's like the only way you can get a discount on them. But yeah, I guess we can move on from the story. I think that's just ridiculous. We're gonna come back to Nintendo a little bit later as far as like the Indie World show. But I think, did you want to just mention something briefly, real quick? Because we're gonna be really quick tonight. Did you want to mention anything real brief about Take-Two and their situation?
Yeah. So everybody's mad at Take-Two right now. I think this article title from Games Radar is a perfect way to explain it. So
Okay.
after making $8.5 billion from GTA 5 and saying it had no current plans for layoffs, in February, GTA 6 publisher announces nearly 600 layoffs and 140 million in canceled projects. $140 million in canceled projects.
Mm.
So yeah, February, the Take-Two CEO was like, "Yeah, we're good. Like, we know we did some layoffs last year. We have zero plans to lay off anybody." And then 2 months later, they were like, "Yeah, we got to cut 5% of our people." And a lot of people are mad because they're just like, "You're about to make so much money off of GTA 6. Well, like, you didn't need to lay. You just said you weren't going to lay off anybody." Then there was things like how much money CEOs were getting like last year, very early, and the fact that a lot of people just start. It seems like every week is another story of mass layoffs in the gaming world.
Yeah, there was a bunch of them, I guess, last month or whatever, where it seemed like every company
Yeah,
was doing it. Oddly enough,
and
we
I
just got done talking about them. I don't think I heard it from Nintendo though this entire
no,
time.
no.
Um,
But I do think what is sad is when I think about it, it's like with the whole like nobody gets to work from home really anymore. Like
yeah,
for these type of stuff, uh, it's the idea that I really hope somebody does like, oh my god, I got my dream job, I got to work for Take Two, I'm gonna move out to California. Then 2 months later, you're let go, and now you're stuck in Cali. You probably
yeah, it's
signed on
kind
a
of
year
crazy.
lease to a place because a lot of places don't do month to month leasing, and now you're just stuck out there in a very expensive place with no job, and everyone like that's the other thing too is even if you're trying to apply for a similar job, it's you with 599 other people from your job all trying to apply for an opening in somewhere else along with everyone else who keeps getting laid off.
Hmm.
It's like it sucks. So yeah, I don't like hearing like mass layoff and then also people who are at the top of the business but don't actually do anything towards the success of the business, making so much money, like more money than they can actually spend. That always bothers me.
Yeah, I think we talked about it for a few minutes before going on air. I think the main thing I'll paraphrase about it is as far as the companies that, as far as they're concerned, Take Two for right now, like GTA 6 started as GTA 1, right? Where it was just this top down, like Game Boy Advance looking game, basically.
Yep.
And like games and the people who play, or not people who play, well, yeah, the players, but the games and the developers, like they kind of have to be there a really, really long term to get a franchise to the point where it can be a GTA 5 or it can be a Elder Scrolls 6 or GTA 6 or Elder Scrolls 6, right? It's like you kind of have to go through multiple generations and like a lot of people to develop those games over time to be such a great masterful franchise, you know.
Yeah.
You're not gonna do that just laying people off, and it seems like nowadays everybody wants a quick fix. If you don't get it, we're gonna fire a bunch of people. We're gonna even go as far as delisting the game, just getting rid of the full work, you
Uh-huh.
know, because we just
It's
didn't
just
make the money right now, and it's just kind of
yeah.
silly.
And we talked about a bunch of games like right before where it was just like, can you imagine, right? Like Elder Scrolls One stopping there because Elder Scrolls One didn't make Elder Scrolls Five profit, or stopping at Witcher One or Witcher 2, because we didn't do because it wasn't mentioned like Witcher 3, or how we brought up how like Persona 5. It's like Persona 5 is the reason they re-released 4 and 3. Can you imagine they would have just stopped? It was like that ain't getting the popularity we want. Uh, or like I didn't hear about the Tales series until Tales of Arise. And that
Yeah.
is like not the first one. That is far from the first one.
Yeah, for a lot of these games, you usually you hear about it now and then you go backwards, right?
Yep.
Final Fantasy 7 and Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth is like in the middle of like that franchise. Oddly enough, even though I guess Rebirth didn't do so good, it still has a very long lineage, right? Because the other game, which is supposed to be at the tail end, was Final Fantasy 16, if I remember correctly. Like that's still a long time. And I remember the original games, which is like something I am playing right now technically, was going as far back as the Super Nintendo, right? And yeah, people are kind of get shuffled in and out since then because of time and everything, but it doesn't seem like this generation they're trying to make franchises anymore. They just want a quick buck off of a game, and if they don't get it, everything else gets shut down. And it's just like that's just not realistic.
About stuff too, right? It's like imagine it, like if we never got Resident Evil 7, 8, or any of the remakes because 6 didn't do what they wanted, so Capcom got shut down. Right? Like when we think about it, it's like things like that. Or what if we didn't get these Final Fantasy remakes because Strangers of Paradise didn't do as well?
Yeah, Resident Evil 1.
Really talking about Strangers of Paradise, and then all of a sudden we get none of the rest because Strangers of Paradise didn't get talked about. So the head person's like, "Well, that didn't make Fortnite money. It's out."
Yeah, Resident Evil 1 was a masterpiece to me. But the style that Resident Evil 1 was is completely different from what the remakes are right now. And then there is 5 and 6 where it's a little controversy, and I think 5 weirdly enough had some like repeat controversy that I don't think we even touched on like last month. Yeah. But like you just wouldn't have gotten all those games if 1 didn't pop off or whatever, right? Like I think every franchise is like that where they start is not where they're gonna end. Like Resident Evil, when they do Resident Evil 9, it's not gonna be like how some of these like Resident Evils was way back in the PlayStation 1 GameCube era. Like it's just not gonna be that, obviously. But
imagine right now not getting Alan Wake 2 or the remaster because Control didn't make the money that they wanted. That I'm sure they wanted because it was a great game, but it was because it didn't get the recognition. They were like, nah, no universe, it's done.
Yeah, I'm really not understanding the goals that some of these companies have set as far as the type of money that they want to make. Because like Dead Space is a good example. Like we just realized, or we just got the news I think last week or the week before, where Dead Space remake the remake for Dead Space 2 is canceled because they said the first remake didn't do the numbers that they wanted. And in my head it's like, how much more would you expect to get? You know, because Dead Space was good, but it's still a very niche genre of like action horror. It's like action horror is very much controlled by the Resident Evil franchise, where some people might say Silent Hill's remakes are almost dead on arrival because of this, right? But how much money did you really think Dead Space was going to get? Or for some of these people, like I guess like we definitely talked about this before because it's footage that's going to come up somewhere in this video if we get to it. Marvel Avengers. It's like they really thought they was going to get like Marvel Avengers in-game money off of that game. With all the microtransactions and stuff. It's like you definitely were not going to get in-game's money, right? what did Endgame do, like $1 billion within the month or something? It's like, nope, you weren't gonna get that off of the Marvel Avenger game, off of like attires and stuff. No. But they just like, all right, well, we'll just shut it all down. And it's like, that's just ridiculous. But like, that was supposed to be the beginning of the franchise, and we can move on. But I made that one point at 1.2 where the studios and the publishers are looking for the end of the MCU's success when they're putting out games that's like literally in the beginning of the MCU as far as movies is concerned. Like, for example, Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2. It's like that's the level that their games are at. But they want like the most money for it. And it's just like the audience is just not going to go for it. They're just
something
just
I just
not.
thought about, and I can talk about this in comparison. So Dead Space Remake, right, is a horror game, which is a niche genre, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, not everyone wants to play horror games. Some people just want to watch it. Some people want to stay away. And they sold, I believe it was like 2 million copies in a day or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or like in that first month. So they sold over 2 million copies, and then because that's not enough, Dead Space 2 got canceled. Meanwhile, I was looking back at an old game that I don't think gets talked about a lot. Darksiders. Right? The first Darksiders
Shout out
game
to Darksiders.
sold just over 1 million units worldwide. That was it. There was 3 of them. Right? Like they went into Darksiders going, we got a franchise. They did not care. It wasn't, let's make the second one based off of how the first one did. They have a story that they're telling over 3 games, same with like God of War. And I think that's on to your point, that they're not making franchises now. They are just making like one-offs. And it's like, I feel like certain games need to be just, one-off and we're done. Yeah. But I feel like for other ones, walk in with a story that you're ready to tell. Like God of War was a story over multiple games that they were telling. The story didn't wrap up after the first one. There was like, it sequel baited. Like, we know there's going to be more. Right? Like, Yakuza. There's so many of those. And I feel like all these other games, is like they made it to where you knew there was going to be more. The Uncharted series is another one where it's just go in with a plan to make more than one and work on it and bring it to life and then see what happens. Because maybe some people don't want, like, because there's so much to play, maybe they don't want to commit until they know it's a franchise that's worth their attention. So if you're going to be just one off and done, and it's going to come out broken and not optimize it again, the first game is always usually not the best in the series. Maybe they wasn't going to pick it up until they heard there was a sequel.
Yeah, I just think we can end it after this. I just wanted to say, like, they just need to look a lot more long term with their strategy as far as some of the games. They gotta already be thinking trilogy or something with their games before they even put out the first one. Yep. Not, the first one's successful, let's go ahead and make a sequel then. It's like you kind of already have to have the story ready to go, and they might actually, even if the games take longer, I think it might be better for them to just go ahead and take longer and not hire an influx of people if you're just going to fire them right afterwards and stuff. Because I think that hurts your sales too, in a way. When you have an audience that's like somewhat more into the behind the scenes of the gaming than actual gaming, when you get to that point, some people do look for a reason to not play something because they want to be political about it. And if you're gonna fire a bunch of people, like, you might get a bunch of people who's like literally like, okay, those guys are who I'm gonna boycott, and it backfires a little bit. It would be better for them to just like take them a little bit longer and have a more like staffed like building or whatever, where that staff is like solid. No matter how much you want to expand, you just don't. If you're really just gonna deflate it like that, It's better for you to not have to go through a ramp up and ramp down process. If you just stay with what you have. That's just my opinion. I don't know. I'm not a game developer, but I just feel like if you're gonna fire a bunch of people, then you probably shouldn't hire them to begin with, and just take a longer process with your game. We're gonna get to this indie show in a second, but it's an example of like, maybe too many games is not a good thing. Because imagine like if we look at the indie show, right before we actually talk about it, I believe there was like at least like a little bit over 10 games, let's say, that was talked about. Probably 15. It's like realistically, even for that audience, I don't see all of them playing each and every one per year, right? Like I could see them playing maybe half if they didn't play a lot of the big titles too, because you got to factor those in. But there's only so much you would play, and it's almost like you're punishing your development team for not making a game like more playable or more desired than the next game. But it's like, how fair is it to like punish an entire like studio because they didn't gather enough steam, so to speak, no pun intended, than GTA 6. It's like, that's not really fair. Like, I feel like it can't be fair. Like, even for a game that come out like Stellar Blade, for example, that's gonna come out and it has the demo out and everything. No matter how much people like gawk at her, the main character Eve, it's like her and the sales of Stellar Blade is not gonna hold a candle to GTA 6, right? It's just not going to, and it doesn't have to. But I think the people who are like, in control over the publish of this game should also understand that, and they should not punish the team because GTA sells like 100 million more copies than this. It's silly. It's just silly. Evil West is on the screen. Evil West is not gonna ever sell more than the Spider-Man franchise. It's never gonna sell more than probably Starfield. Like, it's just not. But it's not. It wouldn't be fair to punish the team because of that. You know what I mean? Because some of those games that come out, like Resident Evil, for example, Silent Hill is not going to do anywhere near those numbers. It's just not. But you better believe like that design team is probably going to have some pushback against their developers because they did not, make enough money for the investors, to match Resident Evil. It's like, it's not fair though. It's like Resident Evil was there while Silent Hill took a hiatus, like decade almost, right? It's like, it's not fair to expect that game to come out and just do Resident Evil numbers. It's like, it's just not going to happen. But I bet that they probably are sitting there like, they better make that, like some investors better make that much money. It's like, come on. But we can move on. Let's get back to some positive stuff. Let's just go over the middle part. We always talk about the middle part around this time anyway. So unofficial sponsor time. I usually talk about Epic Games and how all the Fortnite players, shout out to the Fortnite players. They've been paying for games so much. And we're back to giving away 2 a week right now, apparently, under Epic Games. And so if you remember, you do not need to have a profile, you do need to have a profile. Let me scratch that. You don't need to have credit card information on your profile to claim these games. You just need to create a profile. So you do need to create a profile, use any gamer tag that you've used in the past if it's available, and then get in here and just start claiming some of these games. And remember, once you do get a PC, if you don't already have one, you sign in and everything is right there for you to just start playing some stuff, right, and showing off your build. So two of the games that are coming out or that is available right now until April 25th. One of them is called The Big Con, and the other one is called Town of Salem 2. These are available right now. You can go under Epic Games and claim them, and then afterwards it'll be added to your ever-growing library, right, of all these free games. And then from April 25th to May 2nd, you have a game, I believe it's called Industria, and then the other one is Lisa, the Definitive Edition. Not too familiar with any of these four games, but I can say, at least for the Lisa game, I do know the Definitive Edition typically means that is the complete version. So whatever that game is about, they gave you the full version of it, so you ain't got to worry about getting any DLC there. So shout out to Epic Games for giving a complete game away, right? Yeah. As far as I do want to just keep updating on this, physical media in retail stores, from what I've been seeing so far, Walmart especially, they're remodeling stores here and there, and they move stuff around, but I haven't seen too much leave the shelf that wasn't already there. And every time a new game comes out, they'll still put some new copies out there. For example, Suicide Squad's a game we've talked about in the past, seem to have plenty of copies of those in the Walmarts. So I'll take it with a grain of salt. They do still have a lot of games that they're trying to liquidate, so there's some cool sales here and there in the Walmarts. So definitely just go check that out if you just want to, grab a physical copy of a game you haven't had before, right? One last thing I think I'll mention here, because it's not really a topic, it's just something that I forgot to mention probably last week or the week before. Slightly not gaming related, but I've talked about this in the past, and so what I'm getting at is Megazords, right? I'll be brief on it, we'll get back to gaming. I just wanted to mention that we've talked about that one Megazord that was like $450 or $40, which was like the original Megazord that was like kind of anime-ish. They took some creative liberties here and there and made a very, very, very stylized version of the original Dino Megazord from 1993. Cool looking figure, extremely overpriced, right? And if you thought that was too much, the websites that host that particular Megazord, which I believe was called the Curry Kara, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember the name of this new
Kimmy
one.
Curry?
Huh?
Wasn't it Kimmy Curry?
It was expensive. That's all I remember. It was expensive. Maybe I'll get the proper name for it, because I don't have the proper name for the next one. This is bad, but I'll get the proper name next week. I promise. I'll make a note. But basically, they took the same Megazord, right? And this time, it's not as stylized as that one. It looks more similar to what it used to be. But they have slight changes here and there when you see it. And I believe it doesn't transform. The gimmick here is that it's extra tall. So apparently, they took the original Megazord and made it 20 inches long. And it's up for pre-order. And this time they're asking for $699.99, $700 for this. Basically, it went from a stylized one to now they're going to come out with a non-transforming one that's like probably more for just doing poses and stuff, and they want $700 for it. It's like double the length too. It's like 2 times as tall as a regular Megazord toy. If anybody's into it. What do you think about that?
It still sounds like it costs too much.
Yeah, it definitely costs too much. I'm just trying to figure out why they keep Like, do we really need that many original ones? Like, somebody out there is really getting it again and again. It's like, oh, I guess I'll buy the next one. It's kind of crazy.
So I made this point when you first sent me the picture of it, and my first thought was just like, there's been 30 years of Power Rangers. There's been about 30 plus Megazords, because certain seasons have more than one Megazord.
Yeah.
Why is it still season 1?
I don't know.
They even have the Thunderzords. Like the Thunderzords are a thing, and it's like it's still season 1/2.
They would give me
the movie ones. Like, it's just,
I was kind of done when I got the Ninja Rangers. I was kind of done after that, but if they decide to do the Thunderzords at a reasonable price, and then they decide to do, I want to say the movie version of the Ninja Zords, because I don't think they've ever done it. If they decide to do that, I might want to get it. I'm not gonna go anywhere near $400 or even $300, basically, or $250 or none of that. That's too much, right? But if they make it relatively the same as what the other Hasbro ones were, I would consider it. But so far, we have had the original Megazord in so many different forms, where it's just like, even for your hardcore collectors, I can imagine they're trying to get, a better, like they want to get not a better version of the same thing, because they've had this. They want something different. They want the Thunderzords, or they might even want like one of the newer ones, right? Like,
maybe, yeah.
I would say, like, even
just, like, not even from the new Wisp, but like Ninja Storm or Jungle Fury had some cool looking one, or like there's other ones. Like,
I don't know what's going on with that, but we could probably move on in a second. I will give them some props on, eventually, I gotta say, quote unquote, eventually they come out with a different figure, from they're finally starting to get a variety of some of the figures. It take them like a year just to get it, but when it comes to the Megazord, we're just very, very consolidated down to the first season. And from what I remember correctly, the first 4 seasons were hot, not just the first one. It went all the way until Turbo almost, and then Turbo dropped off tremendously, and then all of a sudden they act like don't nobody want to buy a retro Turbo anything. But yeah, that's like the first 5 seasons.
Turbo has actually hit that, like, they have a what's it called, like a cult following. So there's some people who swear by Turbo.
They
like,
released the figure for TJ, right?
Because there's a whole day dedicated to him. There's people who have on his birthday, it's called TJ Day. Like, and it's like all about, like, there's people who celebrate that yearly. So like, what I would do for a Q-Rex Megazord?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even like the Megazords, but like, I can't get a Q-Rex one. Like,
if I remember correctly, that was one of the original ones that was just like way too expensive for no reason. Actually, no, I think it was because it auto transformed. It was like one of the first ones that did it by remote control. But it was $90 when I was younger, and it was just like everybody was like, no, basically. And I guess it's just like lost on eBay. Like, you just have to get it off eBay for what's probably gonna be super egregious. But yeah, like that, or like plenty of other figures. I would like to see them bring out a giant old Paramimus and just see how that would look. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, let's get back to gaming. We can get back to gaming real quick. Actually, just before it, because it's really just one other topic. Tell me real quick, you saw Godzilla versus Kong, 60 seconds.
X Kong.
Yeah, Godzilla X Kong, my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah. Without spoiling it, I think it's the best one of the MonsterVerse.
Okay.
The thing that I wanted to bring up is something that the director said, so I don't spoil any of the movie for anybody that wants to see it. As you know, my biggest complaint is the humans, right? I always get mad when they focus so much on the humans. Well, even the director was like, hey, after all these movies, we have focused a lot on the humans, so I want to make sure I don't really focus on the humans in this one. That was what he went in with, and boy, did they do that. So there's a bunch of scenes where it's just no humans, and it's just there's like no talking because of course like Godzilla ain't just like, hey, how's it going? So there's no talking, but based off of their actions and movements and their looks, you get full conversations. Like you understand the emotions, but all they're doing is like screaming animal noises at each other. And you understand fully. Like you could just fill in the context yourself with exactly what they're saying. Scar King was scary. Like I can see why he's scary. But yeah, I definitely recommend this one. It was I loved it. It was a great movie.
That's good because I remember being a little annoyed with how they introduced Godzilla in his like 2014 movie because he was barely there. Like there was more Bryan Cranston. Did I say his last name right?
Yep.
Like there's more Breaking Bad than there was Godzilla in the Godzilla's movie, if I remember correctly.
Oh, and I will say CGI has been looking pretty rough lately. Not here. Here it looked great. It was back to looking like, oh, I get why we use CGI. I don't know what's going on with some of these other movies where they even CGI humans and it just looks bad. For like certain, like you could tell, it looks like a CW CGI that you could just point out. Like Argyle was like that, and I watched that movie earlier this year. It's just where it's just like, oh, that's clearly CGI. This, it blended nicely.
What's really cool is like as more and more of these films start to come out, we'll start to get a nice, healthy mix of Godzilla films, similar to like the Japanese versions back in the day, where it was like Godzilla versus this guy, Godzilla versus that guy, but it was like way undertoned because it was like a bunch of people just in suits. Where now they have the ability to do what they want to do, and the money behind it, and they're pumping out these films. So, for everybody out here who hasn't seen it yet, definitely go see Godzilla X Kong. What's cool is that like if you haven't seen it, there's also Godzilla -1. And then definitely Shin Godzilla, if you haven't seen that one, which I think it came out 2016. It's like there's a bunch of Godzilla films that's modern, with modern CGI that looks good. Looks very good. You got a nice, healthy mix. I do believe in a part of what they want to do is heavily inspired by the MCU in a way, Marvel Universe. So I expect them to keep bringing out more movies where they're kind of all somewhat connected a little bit, you know. But yeah, dope franchise. I'm a long-term Godzilla fan for sure. Long term. But let's get to the main event of the night, which probably won't go too long in itself, but get back into gaming. Because we took a detour for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, but anybody sticking around, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I do appreciate your patience with me not posting any solos, but I'm going to start posting more and going to be a little bit low quality initially, but I think I worked out some of my lighting situations. Like before I was having like some of the lights behind me that spray color, like being a little too oversaturated behind me. And one of the things I just needed to do is just turn like literally one of them off, not both, but just one. And I think that semi fixes it for now. But Nintendo had a quick 23 minute or 23 minute indie showcase. It was called Indie World. It was brief and they showed you a lot. For me, I won't say it's half and half, but probably like a third that I really, really liked. But there were some surprises here. There was obviously one big surprise that probably should have went last. But they started off with somewhat of a fan favorite, the Little Kitty Big City, right? I was kind of annoyed when they was trying to do like a skit in the beginning, like some sort of Zoom thing. I was like, you didn't really need to do that. Where it was just like one person had the kitty avatar, the other person didn't, and then they kind of like swapped. And I was like, all right, like just get to it, please. But they did. And it was still, you know, a cool little game. I have not played Stray. My co-host played Stray when Stray was hot. This is obviously, I won't say like inspired, but I feel like this game would not have like exist if Stray wasn't what Stray was.
I agree.
Which, if I'm not mistaken, they were supposed to add like DLC or something to that, but I forgot if they actually came out with it yet. But we'll probably get more information on that later. But yeah, little kitty, big city. Not the only cat game on this show, but it was a cool start, and I liked it. I do have the wish list. I had a wish list when they first showed it off, and I believe I actually had it on the channel at one point too. But yeah, I'm gonna play it. You gonna play it, right? We're gonna play this.
Yeah.
We'll play it. It'll be a cool game. I don't know if we're going to mention everything, but I do think the very next game was called Refined Self, with a couple other actually no, it wasn't. I'm sorry, I skipped one. I'm sorry. Yars Rising, I think was the next one. It looked like Zero Suit Samus to me a little bit, but the game didn't look like a Metroid type of game though. It just looked like the character was more of she was kind of looking like that to me. Not really a game I think I'm going to play. You remember this one, or what's the next one that you think you would play?
The next one that I would play?
Yeah, it doesn't matter where.
Yeah, let me see. It was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splintered Fate.
Yeah, so that was the big surprise in a way, because that one has some name value, obviously, because of Ninja Turtles. I think they should have positioned that one to be last.
Yeah.
But they kind of just threw it in the middle, which was really cool. Yeah, that one's like it's more roguelike from what I remember them saying, but if you get enough experience at one point, you can get some permanent upgrades. And it will be online. You can play with up to 4 people, obviously, for all 4 turtles. And that game comes out July 24th. I'm not sure if this particular game, Splinter's Fate, I believe is the name of it. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splinter's Fate. I think they may have mentioned this one was timed exclusive for July, but there was a number of these that were timed exclusive. Another game that I was interested in is as well. And then I think 1 or 2 of them was actually exclusive. So Nintendo is coming back with some of these exclusive, deals. They're kind of pulling a Sony situation here where they got some timed exclusivity. But this is probably their biggest get for right now. But it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I would imagine it will be fully multiplayer at some point. But at least for the summer, it will be probably timed exclusive to Nintendo. I don't know how long, but I would imagine the summer at least. But yeah, big game for the show. Few of them just before that I did want to mention. Did you want to say something real quick?
Oh no, mine was after. Go ahead.
All right, so before we got to that, it was a bunch of them that I did write down. I guess the next one that came out, the third game that they showed, was called Refine Self. I just put in my notes that it looked more Super Nintendo-ish. Not really a game I think I was going to play, but that was the notes that I put. Sticky Business, that one was the stickers. I was just like, with the dog and stuff. I think they actually bought out a dog. That was another one that was with the skits, right? They had a whole dog there and petting him and stuff, and he was behaved. He was just kind of sitting there. At some point they zoomed into his face and then showed that, and I'm like, okay, I don't really want to play that. But the next one I was kind of excited about because they had a demo. Wasn't really too much of a game that I would want to play too much, but I did go ahead and download the demo on the Switch. This was called Anton Blast. I remember putting in my notes that said they're doing too much, or too much is going on, because it was just kind of just like it was really quick.
Chaotic.
Yeah, it was very chaotic, but it's cool to point out that this one does have a demo. There's a couple other ones here that did as well, but this is called Anton Blast, Anton, and then Blast. Search that under Nintendo, the Switch, and go download the demo, and try not to get a seizure. The next one was called Valley Peaks. Big cozy game there. I wasn't feeling it, but somebody else might. But that was the next one. And then I think, let me see if I can say this right. Lorelei, and the Laser Eyes. I just remember the game's trailer had very, very beautiful piano music. Side note for anybody who would like to know, I do like to listen to just piano music in the background sometimes.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah. So I was very into that. Sad though to say I'm not so much the actual game.
Yeah.
But yeah, the music got me.
The puzzle games, they might be fun.
Yeah.
Like I know some people, they're I guess cozy game where it's like not like gonna be like life or death fighting. Is just solving puzzles and thinking about it and stuff, and that's what this seems
like. The next game that was actually right before the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game, I actually have this one bookmarked, and I did wish list, and I did talk about this in the past. It was called Europa. It's kind of like like you're gliding around with this one little dude that's kind of like Ness looking to me. But he is in a world that it looks like it's very Breath of the Wild inspired.
Yeah.
This is another one.
Europa wasn't after Teenage?
Yeah, it was before. Yeah. That one also has a demo that was put out right now. I did enjoy that about this show. They had demos that was like, bam, right after this show, the demo was ready. And this was one of them. So EUROPA, Europa under the Switch, and you'll find that demo. The background and everything, it definitely looks like it's a Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, inspired type game. But that's one of them that I do plan to play at some point, the full thing. Yeah. And then the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then right after that, Cat Quest 3.
Yeah.
That
Shout
one
out to Cat Quest
cool.
for making it to number 3.
Yeah.
I remember Cat Quest 1, so shout out to 3.
So here's another one that has a demo. You can so everything on this show had demos that you can download like literally right now. So you got a couple demos here. So Nintendo was feeding their audience, man. I gotta say they were feeding their audience. And so Cat Quest 3, the official version of this is going to be available August 8th. But there's another demo out for today. So it's 3 demos on this show. Which I thought was pretty cool. The very next one was called Stitch, and I remember saying this took a lot of time. They gave this one a lot of time, and oddly enough, right after that, they kind of just like threw you a few games like really, really fast, and one of them was one of them that I've been following, obviously. But Stitch took like 2 minutes or something. Like 2 or 3 minutes was like pure Stitch, and it looked like something that might be satisfying to somebody. But I wasn't really feeling it, to be honest. I wasn't. But somebody out there might. And then like in that little sequence of games that they put out there, obviously one of them was another Crab's Treasure,
of course,
which I believe.
I thought there was something before another Crab Show. Did you see the game?
There was one game that I wrote down that I did like from that they kind of went fast with. That was called Animal Well. That was the one that kind of looks like Hue, Hue to me, where it's kind of puzzle like and it's relying on colors and darkness and light and stuff to like get through it. Something you would probably play on the Steam Deck or something, or the Switch handheld. Cool little game. They went fast on it. And another Crab's Treasure, and then probably something else that you liked, right?
It was so of course Another Crab's Treasure. That's like been at the top of my list for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But also there was two other games, Duck Detective: The Secret Salami.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah.
It looks goofy, but it was like a detective game, and I like those. And I mean, it just looks fun. But then the other one was called BZZT, like BZZZT. It was your old schoolish, like Metroid, like platformers where everything's like metal or like the metal levels of Sonic, but you play as like a little robot.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. You know, it's just I had to take points away from the show a little bit for rushing through a few of these games at the last minute, because I kind of felt like at the space and time that you gave them, you might as well have just made it a cool 25 minutes and gave the extra 2-3 minutes and gave them proper time, because everything that was shown, it was still a lot of things shown. It didn't make sense for something to just be like 15 seconds while everything else was like 1 minute or 2 minutes or something, because it was still a lot here. We were talking 15 games maybe total. You might as well gave them their proper time, especially with like showing, like you can glance over Another Crab Treasure, glance over like Animal Well, like what they showed for me was enough for me to say, yeah, I want to like wish list it at least. But I would have to like look up more, look up the full trailer or something in order to like get more information on it. And I feel like they might as well have did that within the show versus like some of them other extra skits or people just briefly talking at first before they showed their trailers. But that's just me. And I think the last thing they showed was Steam World Heist 2. When they said Steam and was like putting emphasis on that, in my head I was like, yo, is this Attitude Era? Like, are they about to go sideways and say something about Steam? No, it was like, yeah. Cause like for a split second when they did it like that, I was just like, what? Steam what? But yeah, they gave them a little bit more time on this too, Steam World Heist. But was that something that you thought you might want to play? That particular game?
Nah, I've seen some of the Steam World gameplays before. It was never really my thing.
Yeah. But I gotta say for myself, I did have a few takeaways here. So final list for me was the Little Kitty Big City. Obviously, everything that had a demo, at the very least, I just got the demos. But then also, I will play the TMNT game at some point. Would probably be one of our co-op games. And then Europa is another one. Cat Quest, I'll probably play some of the older ones first, and then play that. Animal Well, Another Crab's Treasure. That's what I'm playing. How about you?
It'll be the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Another Crab's Treasure, Duck Detective. I'll check out Europa, and those are the main ones for me.
All right, as a show, I do think it had its good and also had its bad. I think I have to still give it like I'll say a 6.5 out of 10.
Okay.
I think you say a 7.
Yeah. I think it was because like the games they looked fun. I think what I like was, and something you pointed out, I always love and you can try the demo right now. Right?
Yeah.
Like, so having that for some of these games I think was great. And then of course, I mean, even though it was fast, but it was, Another Crab's Treasure always gets me. So
yeah, I will say is kudos to them not really treating me like a 4-year-old, but I do still feel like it's like it went up a little bit. It's like, because they're talking to me like I'm at least 6 or 7. So it's progress, but it still felt like they was talking to a child. That, and then rushing through some of the stuff at the last minute when it was stuff that I kind of was interested in, but we still gave them time for somebody to come out with a whole dog, and then somebody else to come out and do like their Zoom stuff, and like there was at one point a couple and a dude in like a like an outfit or something. What was he dressed up as? It was a dude, like it was a couple, it was a married couple who was talking about a game, but there was like a dude popping in and out in like a outfit that I don't know if he was supposed to have been a cat or a cow. or something.
It was probably a cat.
It was weird. I'm like, okay. Like, we had enough time for them to do their little cringy skits, basically, all throughout it. But we rushed it at the end, so I was like, I gotta take points from them for that. But at the very least, it was a better-ish Nintendo show. And they haven't had pretty good shows lately. They've been coming out with some decent games and stuff, which is probably more important in the long run anyway. But yeah, just get better, keep it up. This is still supposed to be Nintendo's year, in my opinion, in my head, but there's no announcement of Switch 2. I'm glad I didn't put that other video out, and I'm probably gonna redo it anyway. But in the video that I didn't release, I was gonna say, oh, Nintendo's gonna announce the Switch 2 in April. Where I don't think they're doing that. April's almost over. We're like a little bit past halfway, so I don't know when they're gonna do it. Maybe they might do it at the, big summer shows that everybody has. Maybe they might say something then. Or maybe they might not say it until next year. Maybe they pushed it back. I do see the good in it though, because if they decided not to say nothing yet, then maybe they might be thinking, well, let's see if we could add some more horsepower into it. All these other handhelds are coming out with horsepower. Let's see if we can make ours better. If we haven't heard about it, and that's the reason why, keep at it. I don't need to hear anything. I don't want to hear anything if that's the case. Keep at it. I would rather they push it back a whole year and come out with better horsepower than to come out with something that's like subpar, and then we got to deal with it for another 6-7 years, and you want to sue everybody into oblivion if they tried to like play it on something else like Yuzu or Suyu or whatever it is. But yeah, I think we can end it. This was pretty cool. Anything else you want to say real quick before we let it just go?
No, go see Godzilla X Kong.
Yeah, play more games. Anybody out there who's workaholics, figure out a way to find time to get back to playing something, even if it is a big long game like Persona 5 or Persona 4, or challenging like a Souls game, or just one of these Nintendo games. If it's like, find time to play it. That's my challenge for myself right now. I think I'm gonna have my schedule finalized tomorrow of what days I'm playing and what I'm actually playing. Sometimes you gotta do that as an adult. You just gotta like schedule it. It has to literally be scheduled in order for you to find time. It's to the point where it's like somebody's like, oh, can you come to this thing? And I'm like, well, let me check my schedule. Oh, it says I gotta play this game. No, I can't go. It's got to be like that at some point. But yeah, that's all I got for you here. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I will see you next week, or when I'll see you whenever. I don't know. I forgot, because you and me have to talk about a couple things. Probably Saturday, because I forgot. But yeah, you'll see us long term though. We'll be here long term for sure.
Yeah.
And definitely I'm also preparing for that marathon that's going to come up this summer of like 50 shows in one, because they don't listen to us. 50 shows in 1 month or something, or in like back to back, all like 2 hours a night or something. Like, it was worse than wrestling at one point. I'm like, all right, that's going to happen sometime in the middle of June, so I'll be prepared for that. We'll cover most of it, hopefully. We might actually have to stretch some of that out at this point. Like, y'all gonna have to catch some of that like a week late on us. Like, we gonna have to take like the lowest ones. Like, what is it called? Like the dame. Like, I'm sorry, but the dames of dames of gaming, and what was that?
No, I ain't watching all of them.
Like, some of them gonna have to get pushed back a week. Yeah, the like Zoom meetings on like diversity and all this other stuff. Like, some of that gonna have to get pushed back, homie. I don't know. But yeah, we're gonna try to catch the main ones at least, hopefully. Cause ain't it like Capcom, Ubisoft, and then the Borderlands Gearbox, right? They had their thing at one point. It was just too much going on, but
way too much. Way too much.
Yeah, but we'll see. All right, I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.